Hello everyone. Today we will see about disorders of the esophagus, mainly inflammatory lesions and neoplastic lesions of esophagus. Anatomically, esophagus is hollow muscular tube guarded by two sphincters, one located at upper end and another located at lower end. It extends from the lower border of the cricoid to the stomach. It measures 25 to 30 cm in length, and endoscopically it is viewed at 15 cm from the teeth till 40 cm. Now first we will see inflammatory lesions of the esophagus. Inflammation of the esophagus is known as esophagitis. There are several causes of esophagitis. One of them is reflux of gastric juice, which is most common cause. This gastroesophageal reflux may occur in normal individuals after meal and during early pregnancy. But in some conditions, this gastroesophageal reflux is excessive, resulting in inflammation of the lower end of esophagus. The conditions resulting in gastroesophageal reflux are sliding hiatus hernia, chronic gastric and duodenal ulcers, nasogastric intubation, persistent vomiting, surgical vagotomy, and esophagogastrostomy. Morphological features of reflux esophagitis. Endoscopically, the demarcation between normal squamous and columnar epithelium is lost. The affected distal esophageal mucosa is red, erythematous, friable, and it bleeds on touch. In advanced cases, there are features of chronic disease such as nodularity, strictures, ulceration, and even erosions. This figure showing morphology of gastroesophageal reflux. Left side figure shows normal, healthy individual's esophagus and stomach. Here this sphincter is closed, which prevents reflux of acidic gastric content into the esophagus. And right side figure shows gastroesophageal reflux disease, where sphincter is open, which allows reflux of acidic gastric content into the esophagus, resulting in inflammation of the lower end of esophagus. Another figure showing endoscopic appearance of reflux esophagitis. Here the affected esophagus shows red erythematous mucosa, which is marked by arrow. Microscopically, there is basal cell hyperplasia and elongation of the papilla touching close to the surface epithelium in the distal part of esophagus. In early stages, there is inflammatory infiltrate of polymorphs and eosinophils. Later on, in chronic stage, this inflammatory infiltrate consists of lymphocytic infiltrate, and there is fibrosis of all the layers of esophageal wall. Figure showing microscopic appearance of reflux esophagitis. There is basal zone hyperplasia, which constitutes about more than 20% of total epithelial thickness, elongation of lamina propria papilla, and inflammatory infiltrate of eosinophils and neutrophils. Another figure showing comparison between histology of normal esophagus and histology of esophagus with inflammation. Normally, the Papillary layer measures 40% of total epithelial height, and basal layer measures about 15% of epithelial height. Whereas in esophagitis or GERD, papillary layer measures up to 90% of epithelial height, and basal layer measures up to 30% of epithelial height. Another inflammatory lesion of esophagus is Barrett's esophagus. It is a condition in which, following reflux esophagitis, stratified squamous epithelium of the lower end of the esophagus is replaced by columnar epithelium. That means there is columnar metaplasia. It is seen more commonly in the later age group, and it is caused by factors producing gastroesophageal reflux disease. It is a pre-malignant condition evolving sequentially from Barrett's epithelium or columnar metaplasia into dysplasia, from dysplasia into carcinoma in situ, and eventually progresses to esophageal adenocarcinoma. Morphological features of Barrett's esophagus. Endoscopically, the affected esophageal mucosa is red and velvety. Hiatus hernia and peptic ulcer at the squamocolumnar junction are also associated. This figure showing morphology or endoscopic appearance of Barrett's esophagus. Left side figure shows endoscopic appearance of normal esophagus as well as Barrett's esophagus, which appears as red and velvety esophageal mucosa. Right side figure have three portions, A, B and C. The middle one, B portion, shows endoscopic appearance of Barrett's esophagus. There is presence of both normal esophageal mucosa lined by squamous epithelium and Barrett's esophagus lined by columnar epithelium. The A portion shows normal squamous epithelium and C portion shows columnar metaplasia. Microscopically, there is replacement of squamous epithelium by metaplastic columnar epithelium. This columnar epithelium may be composed of intestinal type epithelium, fundic gastric gland or cardiac mucus gland. Other cells which may be present are Paneth cells, goblet cells, Cheeb cells, parietal cells, mucus secreting cells and neuroendocrine cells. There may also be associated inflammatory and dysplastic changes. Figure showing microscopic appearance of Barrett's esophagus. Left upper figure shows normal squamous mucosa with intestinal metaplasia. Left lower figure shows squamous mucosa with cardiac mucosa. Right side figure shows columnar lined lower esophagus, which indicates there is columnar metaplasia above the gastroesophageal junction. Another figure showing Barrett's esophagus progressing to adenocarcinoma. First, figure A shows histology of normal esophagus. In the figure B, there is Barrett's esophagus showing columnar metaplasia. Figure C shows dysplastic changes into the Barrett's esophagus, and figure D shows Barrett's esophagus progressing to adenocarcinoma. Other inflammatory lesion is infectious esophagitis. An opportunistic infection in immunosuppressed person can also cause esophagitis. Causes are Candida esophagitis, herpes simplex esophagitis, cytomegalovirus, or tuberculosis. Other causes of esophagitis are radiation, corrosives, intake of certain drugs like anticholinergic drugs, doxycycline or tetracycline, ingestion of hot irritating fluid, Crohn's disease, and even various vesicular skin diseases may also lead to esophagitis. Now we will see tumors of esophagus. Benign tumors of esophagus are uncommon and they are small in size, up to 3 cm in size. The benign tumors may be of epithelial origin or stromal or mesenchymal origin. Epithelial benign tumors present as intraluminal mass, whereas stromal or mesenchymal benign tumors present as intramural masses. Now, epithelial tumors may arise from squamous epithelium or columnar epithelium. Those arising from squamous epithelium are squamous cell papilloma, and arising from columnar epithelium are adenoma. The examples of stromal benign tumors are leiomyoma, lipoma, fibroma, or neurofibroma. Malignant tumors of esophagus are mainly carcinomas. Sarcomas in the esophagus are very rare. Carcinoma of esophagus. Carcinoma of esophagus are most common malignant tumors of esophagus. They are diagnosed very late, even after symptomatic esophageal obstruction producing dysphagia has developed. The tumor occurs more commonly in the men over 50 years of age. Prognosis of esophageal carcinoma is worse. With surgical rejection or irradiation, 70% of the patients die within 1 year of diagnosis. Etiology of esophageal carcinoma. First is diet and personal habit. It includes heavy smoking, consumption of alcohol, intake of foods contaminated with fungus, and deficiency of vitamins and minerals. Second one is esophageal disorders like esophagitis, particularly Barrett's esophagus, which is associated with adenocarcinoma. Another esophageal disorders are achalasia cardia, hiatus hernia, diverticula, and Plummer-Vinson syndrome. Other factors affecting esophageal carcinoma are: it is more common in the Chinese and Japanese people, and it is more frequent in blacks than white people. Positive family history also increases risk of esophageal carcinoma. Genetic factors like abnormality of p53 tumor suppressor gene also increases risk of esophageal carcinoma. Another factors are associated HPV infection and consumption of tobacco and alcohol. Morphologically, carcinoma of the esophagus is mainly of two types: squamous cell carcinoma or epidermoid carcinoma and adenocarcinoma. Most common sites for these two forms of carcinoma are: for squamous cell carcinoma, most common site is 3 areas of esophageal constriction. Half of the squamous cell carcinomas occur in the middle third of the esophagus, followed by lower third and upper third of the esophagus in that order of frequency. While for adenocarcinoma, most common sites are lower and middle third of esophagus. Figure showing common sites for both the types of esophageal carcinoma. 50% of squamous cell carcinoma occur in middle third of the esophagus, 30% occur in lower third, and rest 20% occur in upper third of the esophagus. While adenocarcinomas are more common in the lower and middle third of the esophagus. Among these two types, squamous cell carcinoma comprises for 90% of the carcinomas occurring in esophagus. Rest 10% of the carcinoma occurring in esophagus are adenocarcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma or epidermoid carcinoma. It comprises 90% of primary esophageal cancers. It is exceeded in incidency by carcinoma colon, rectum and stomach amongst all the gastrointestinal cancers. The disease occurs in 6th to 7th decades of life and is more common in men than women. Most common sites are 3 areas of esophageal constrictions as we have seen earlier. Grossly, 3 growth patterns are recognized: polypoid fungating or exophytic form, ulcerating or endophytic form, and diffuse infiltrating type. Polypoid fungating or exophytic form is most common form. Here the tumor appears as cauliflower-like friable mass protruding into the lumen. The next common form is endophytic form. It looks like a necrotic ulcer with everted edges. And third one is diffuse infiltrating type. Here tumor appears as an annular stenosing narrowing of the lumen due to infiltration into the wall of esophagus. Figure shows 3 growth patterns of squamous cell carcinoma. First one is exophytic polypoid or fungating form. Here mass protrudes into the lumen of esophagus, which is marked by circle. Second one is endophytic ulcerative form. Here ulcerative cancer mass extends deeply into the wall. And third one is diffuse infiltrative form, where the cancer mass imparts thickening and rigidity to the wall of esophagus and leads to the narrowing of the lumen of esophagus. Another figure showing various growth patterns of squamous cell carcinoma. Figure A shows cake-like exophytic mass protruding into the lumen of esophagus. Figure B shows circumferential constricting lesion in the wall of the esophagus. Figure C shows elevated round nodule with central ulceration. And figure D shows widely invasive lesion with deep ulceration. Microscopically, majority of the squamous cell carcinomas are well differentiated or moderately differentiated. Keratin formation and epithelial pulse are seen most commonly. However, non-keratinizing and anaplastic growth patterns can also occur. An exophytic, slow-growing, well-differentiated variant known as verrucous squamous cell carcinoma is also seen in the esophagus. Figure showing microscopic appearance of squamous cell carcinoma. Figure in the left side shows low power view showing normal stratified squamous epithelium with ulceration and infiltrative tumor from left to right side. Right side figure shows high power view of squamous cell carcinoma showing morphological feature of individual tumor cells and desmoplastic stroma with presence of keratin pulp. Here, individual tumor cell is having high nuclear cytoplasmic ratio and prominent nucleolus. Another figure showing microscopic appearance of squamous cell carcinoma. Figure in the left side shows presence of creatinous pearl, atypical tumor cells, and presence of mitosis with reduced stroma and lymphocytes. Figure in the right side shows presence of intercellular bridges between the tumor cells. Another carcinoma is adenocarcinoma of esophagus. It comprises less than 10% of primary esophageal cancer. It occurs predominantly in men in their 4th to 5th decades of life. Most common locations are lower and middle third of the esophagus, and these tumors have a strong association with Barrett's esophagus. That is why most common site or locations for this carcinoma are lower and middle third of the esophagus. Grossly, adenocarcinoma appears as nodular elevated mass in the lower esophagus. Figure showing Barrett's associated adenocarcinoma. There is circumferential papillary lesion seen in the left side and ulcerated polypoid lesion shown in the right side figure. Microscopically, adenocarcinoma of esophagus can have one of the three patterns: intestinal type, adenosquamous type, or adenoid cystic type. Intestinal type is most common pattern and it is similar to that seen in adenocarcinoma of stomach or intestine. Adenosquamous type is the pattern in which there is irregular mixture of adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. Adenoid cystic type is rare variety. It is similar to the growth seen in salivary gland tumors. Here there is cribriform appearance seen in the tumor. Figure showing low power view of adenocarcinoma of esophagus. Here is same figure in the high power showing adenocarcinoma of esophagus, which is intestinal type. Adenocarcinoma of the esophagus must be distinguished from the adenocarcinoma of the gastric cardia, particularly intestinal type of adenocarcinoma of esophagus. This is done by identifying normal esophageal mucosa on the distal as well as proximal margin of the tumor. Clinically, the patient of esophageal cancer presents with pressure on the chest, difficulty in swallowing means dysphagia, indigestion, heartburn, and weight loss. Other types of carcinoma of esophagus: mucoepidermal carcinoma. Here tumor have characteristics of squamous cell as well as mucus secreting carcinoma. Malignant melanoma arises from malign blast in the epithelium of the esophagus. Oat cell carcinoma, it arises from argyrophil cells in the basal layer of the epithelium of esophagus. Carcinosarcoma, it consists of malignant epithelial as well as sarcomatous components. Undifferentiated carcinoma and secondary tumors arising from carcinomas of the breast, kidney, and adrenals. Diagnosis of esophageal carcinoma is based mainly on the endoscopic USG and barium swallow. spread of carcinoma of esophagus. Esophageal cancer spreads by three modes: local spread, lymphatic spread, and hematogenous spread. Among all these three, local spread is most common and significant. Local mode of spread is most important mode and is of great significance for surgical treatment. It may occur in the transverse as well as longitudinal direction. The tumor may invade below into the stomach, above into the hypopharynx, into the trachea, resulting in tracheoesophageal fistula, and may also involve larynx, causing hoarseness of voice. Tumor may also invade muscular wall of the esophagus, mediastinum, lungs, bronchi, pleura, and even aorta. Lymphatic spread. Submucosal lymphatic permeation may lead to multiple satellite nodules away from the main tumor. The lymphatic spread may also result in metastasis to the cervical, paraesophageal, tracheobronchial, and subdiaphragmatic lymph nodes. Another mode is hematogenous mode, which is uncommon and rare because the death occurs early due to invasion of important structures by other modes like local spread. However, hematogenous spread can occur in the lungs, liver, and adrenals. Staging of esophageal carcinoma. It is based mainly on tumor size, involvement of lymph node, and presence or absence of metastasis. Stage 0. In stage 0, tumor is limited to the mucosa of the esophagus. In the stage 1, tumor extends up to the submucosa. The stage 2A, tumor involves muscle layer also. The stage 2B, there is involvement of local lymph nodes. In the stage 3, tumor spreads to the periesophageal tissue, and in the stage 4, there is spread of tumor to the distant organs and lymph nodes. This is all about inflammatory and neoplastic lesions of the esophagus. Thank you, and maintain social distancing and stay safe.